Hi, welcome to Yelling at Birds. Matt here. Hope you had a good weekend. Um, don't really know how this one's going to go. I didn't really plan on it, but I know it's been a long time since I've just sat down and had a little chat with you. Had some interviews, which I'm very happy to have. A few coming up, starting with one coming up this coming week. So happy for that. I really appreciate those of you that are reaching out to me, and I appreciate hearing your stories. And by all means, feel free, reach out. I'm gonna see. No, that's good. All right. Um, yeah, I just really appreciate it. As you're growing and learning. I'm growing and learning. I'm constantly, obviously, running into struggles and learning from them, and hopefully, the more you learn from those things, the longer term the lesson is. I know that, um, yeah, I know that there's some things that in new situations, I mean, for me, that bubble up to the surface, that things that you thought that you've kind of already gone over and already learned and already know and have already grown from, they still stick around. It kind of reminds me of, I watched A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and you know, Mr. Rogers, the person that he was that person, but he wasn't just always that person. It takes a lot of work, and those people that we see that seem to have it all together, it takes constant work. Constant work if you want to have the desired effect on the world that you want. I know it's easy to, if you don't do that work, or you're not aware of those areas that you need to improve or that you'd like to improve, and it's just not going to happen. Life may be a little easier, but if you don't, I don't want to put anybody down, but I mean, if you don't desire to have a bigger and better impact on the world, then I guess life can be easier that way. But for me, I'm constantly running into things, and had a very nice, had a long weekend, and there were some conflicts, but there was a lot of joy and a lot of good things too. Um, a few takeaways that I learned without getting too deeply into it. Um, One thing was kind of, I'm not a huge fan of analogies. I'd rather just say the real, say what you're thinking. But I was putting together a, a pretty easy, a little piece of furniture this weekend, and it had a lot of parts, and it was just, the directions were just screw. There was a main board, and you're screwing shelves onto that board, and then you screw the back on, and then the bottom and the base and everything. So it's like, really, there's three, aside from the pieces of wood, there's two or three different things that you need. So it was really, buy it from the store and build it yourself. But one thing I kind of reflected on a little bit when I was done is, I spent the shelves were, there's really only one way you can screw them in that it works, that you can still have the screw holes for the base, for the backing to go on, but they're just like little squares with one rounded edge, and then three sides are painted, one side's not. So, but it's a lot of pieces. So it's important, as you're going along, you don't want to get to the end and then realize you can't complete it because one of the shelves is upside down or turned around or anything like that. So in order to avoid that, I spent a little more time focusing on doing each thing right. And at the end, when I was ready to put the last piece on that kind of tied everything together, screwed everything together, I had that brief, there was like a little second of like a little panic, not a panic attack, but like a little like, wait, is everything, like, I just double checked everything and like looked over it again. But it was all good. So screwed the board on, all good. And I know that, so the analogy is, there's a lot of big things that happen in life. Relation that at the end of life, you kind of are baffled by, well, how did that happen? Like, how did that work? How did they do that? So it made me kind of think about how we spend so much time focusing on the end result and maybe not the million little things or choices or decisions that were made until then, but we spend a lot of time focusing on the end result, and that's a really big thing when we're thinking about that. Like a recovered person, or being a self-aware person, a well-adjusted person, a successful relationship, a successful business, a successful anything. We, I think, can get paralyzed by the thought of that. Just seems like a huge undertaking. Like how do you make something so complicated and big and important work? And in the tale of the little shelf, it's you just obviously take it step by step, but make sure you're doing those seemingly like little things right. Just focus on those, and the end result is usually a successful thing. And I know I've fall victim to that a lot. There's things there's books I'd like to write. There's the next steps of this podcast and moving it forward in a direction that I'd like to go. And I have those days where I'm sitting there at my computer kind of thinking, and like, I don't know what's the next step to get it to the next level. And I'm losing focus on just the little things that, like me sitting here for 15, 20 minutes sharing something I've learned. Those are really the little steps, because it takes no time out of my day. And I've seen that in recovery too. It's just, if you're in a 12-step, if you go to AA or something like that, they say one day at a time. And really, like, our life is, and I go to smart recovery meetings, but really, like, our life is just obviously a collection of days, and it's the choices that you make in each day that at the end you look back, and that's what your life is, a collection of those choices. So yeah, I liked being in a space where I can just be doing some little thing and just get a lesson out of it, or just get a reminder. And with the shelves, you do the things right, and at the end you have a shelf and it's done. Life isn't like that, because you have to keep doing those little things right. You have to learn from them. You make a little mistake here, you have to learn from it somehow. And hopefully that's through open and honest communication. Speaking of that, I still struggle with certain things, and I don't know if it's easier or harder, if you, after going through and working on self-awareness and knowing yourself and knowing your energy and knowing your emotions. I don't know if it's easier or harder, because something came up recently that I could feel old feelings, like insecure feelings, bubbling up. And, poorly used humor, like not good humor though, not like you're just kind of gently making fun of something. It was kind of like needled humor to kind of step aside or passive aggressively deal with those insecure feelings. But the whole time I could feel that things I was doing and things I was saying, they were coming from a bad place, or they were coming from just an insecure, scared, not confident place. And the whole time I could feel that. The whole time I could feel it's not, like, the way I'm going about this isn't right. But I just did it, just continued anyway, because I just couldn't help myself. And being aware of that, obviously the situation with the people involved, me being aware of it or not being aware of it doesn't make it any easier or harder on them, but it makes it a hell of a lot harder on me. Not that that's the important part, because, it should be hard on me. I should feel, regret and how I handled the situation. And I should feel, I mean, I don't know, ashamed, but sorry for dealing with it that way. And that just is another reminder that it's those days, those hour by hour, minute by minute. You have to be aware of your emotions and how you're letting them either control you or you're controlling them. And then you also have to be aware of what you're choosing to do and choosing to say and how you're choosing to act, where that's coming from. And I know that how I handled this specific situation wasn't coming from a good place. It was coming from a scared place. And scared because just of my own personal issues. And I think some of that, and I'm working on that. The fact that I'm working on it doesn't make it any better or any worse. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it any less, shitty. But it's just a reminder to me that however, or not a lesson or a reminder or anything, just a communication to you that no matter how confident or put together or knowledgeable or anything I might seem, it's hard work. It's a daily constant struggle. Not struggle, but I mean, these situations always come up. And the hope is they have come up less and less in my life. And the lessons learned have been easier and easier, but not to say they're not important. But the hope is that as you constantly grow, you can grow your awareness, your emotional awareness, your self-awareness, and know that what you're choosing to do and what you're choosing to say, how you're choosing to react to certain situations, know where that's coming from. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't bring things up when something's bothering you, but the hope is that you're able to bring it up in a more healthy and open way. And that's also a part of living. And that's also what's so important to me about speaking to you all and having interviews and expressing things that I've learned is that the sooner that you can kind of begin that growth and the sooner you can realize more about yourself and be able to be a little more open and a little more honest with yourself and others around you, the sooner you can start to feel like you're alive. Because as we've said before, this is the whole thing. This is it. And I mean, hopefully the goal is to continue to have a better and better impact on people around you and enjoy life. And that's an important, to those of you out there that are recovering, the important thing, it's obviously important to stop the choices and decisions and behaviors that have put you in a place where you have something to recover from. But that's part of it. The other part is you have to learn how to live your life. Enjoy life. Because no matter what you've done or choices you've made, if you reach a point where you start to make those choices and start living deliberately for the right reasons, for yourself and for the loved ones around you, that you can start to feel fulfilled and enjoy life. But another update, I have graduated from a program I was in where I was tested for alcohol just recently, this last Friday. So that's done. But there's still parts of that program that have really beneficial to me. That's going to smart recovery meetings. I'm going to try to make it at least once a week to smart recovery meetings. And I see a therapist and that's going to be, even though she's didn't, really think I needed to come back, but it's still going to be something I continue to do. Maybe not monthly, maybe not even bi-monthly, but I think it's still important to have another point of view and another person outside of your everyday social circle and family to talk to about issues that are coming up. Other than that, that's really all I had tonight. I want to thank you very much for being here. Thank you for paying attention to me and for the last year, for everything. I appreciate it. If you would like to reach out to me over Facebook, Yelling at Birds on Facebook, send me a message. If you would like to support what I do, I have on Anchor, anchor.fm/Yelling at Birds. It's the homepage for my podcast on Anchor, and there's a support button. Also, I have find me Yelling at Birds on Patreon. There's certain things that I get for monthly support levels, but I'll also put the links below. If you can, I'd really appreciate it. I'm not going to stop if you don't. There's still going to be videos, there's still going to be lessons, but I'd really like to be able to do this more and expand. And I think realistically, I'm going to need help. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, or if you're listening, thank you for listening. And that's all I have tonight. Have a great night. Bye.